Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, guys.
Margaret.
Hello, Rhonda. How are you?
I'm terrific. And yourself?
Oh my gosh, look at your room. It's so beautiful. I
Doesn't
am just,
every doesn't every room have a unicorn?
I need a unicorn. What the heck? Although I do have dragons around, but just not here. Dave, this gives you a good idea of what we should have our room look like.
Now, I'm thinking, don't you have an 8-foot banner of the Schmetz color chart?
I don't have an 8-foot banner. I should because all of the things
You've
in the
got the
room.
one that she gave us though.
Where is it at?
It's not 8 foot, but it's the one that you had at the show. We have above our needles.
Yeah, I saw
show
that
it.
one in your video, but I thought I gave you oh, all right. I thought you had this 8-foot
You,
one too
you
from
gave us a
Bernina
smaller one.
University. Okay.
No, no, but you can give that to us at any point in time, and
I'm
I'd be very
sure.
grateful. So, no, we sell a lot of Schmetz needles.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know your customers are very fortunate to have you. You know so much about sewing, quilting, costuming, etc.
We have wealth of knowledge in this shop. We're very, very fortunate. I mean, just lots of people who have just we have a woman who is a expert knitter who actually makes samples for designers. We have a woman who has 2 quilts down at the Paducah Quilt Museum. We have Alice, who's a Schmetz, not Schmetz, but she's done fitting with Palmer and Plush, so she's a certified person with that. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So I am just the gatherer of really cool people.
I wish I lived closer. I'd frequent your store.
Well, I will tell you what, if you ever want to come visit, we'd love to have you and I'll buy dinner.
Okay. It sounds good.
All right.
So
So,
I
right.
know that I'm early. I'm guessing you can see and hear me just fine.
Yes, and we've got you on our speaker above, so our whole room will be able to hear you, which is very exciting.
Okay.
So that's really good. So,
And let me try my screen share.
okay. So let's do that. I'm going here to, nope, it's not that one. Let's do this one. That's what I was supposed to do. I guess I was going to make you the host. Is that what we want to do?
Well, do you have other people coming in
Yes,
virtually?
lots of other people.
Oh, okay. Well,
Hopefully,
then make me a
hopefully.
co-host then.
Okay, I'll make you a co-host. There we go.
All right.
Thank you. I'm glad you are more familiar with Zoom than I am.
You know, I've never had to set up a meeting.
Oh, really?
But I do know what to do on this end for myself. All right, now let
Okay.
me change this here. All right. And there, can you see my screen just fine? I can see the screen behind you and it looks good. All
Mhm.
right, excellent. All right, so let me stop the screen share. All right.
Okay, so hopefully, I mean, we're 15 minutes out, so hopefully we'll have more people joining. And I know we're going to have at least a couple people here in the shop, so that's good.
All
And
right.
let's see.
So why don't I just black myself out on video and audio, and I can come back on, a minute or two before the bottom of the hour. How's that?
That is fine. And what I was going to do here in about 5 minutes, I told people that they needed to come on and join as soon as they could, because I was getting everybody's names. And before the end of this, I'll go ahead and make a drawing. We have 2 door prizes.
Awesome.
So we're going to give away cool stuff.
Oh, okay. And
So,
Margaret, you carry the Grab It My Pad needle organizer,
I
right?
do.
Okay, so I'll
I do.
mention that too. Okay.
Yeah, we carry the bobbin savers. We carry the needle thing that you were just showing.
Okay.
What other things do you guys sell?
The grab
We've
it
got-
magnetic pin cushions.
You know what? I don't think we have that, but the other thing we do have are the boxes with all the needles and like the
Oh,
gift box.
You have that 7.5-inch tin?
Yes.
Okay, let me get a tin real quick.
Can you, Dave? Can you? Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I did.
so I will show this also. Mine is empty, so I'm guessing you probably have the goodies inside.
I do.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'll bring that to everybody's attention then. All right. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna mute myself and block my video.
All right, I'm going to mute myself for a moment. Everybody, don't be freaked. I'll be back in just a second. All right, I am back. Oh, hi, Doris. I see you're on too. Okay.
Good morning, Margaret.
How are you doing, Miss Doris?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good. And it looks like Valerie's joining us. Hi, Valerie. So I'm very excited. Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I tried to figure this out. I just now downloaded the app.
Oh, good for you. That you're very adventurous. So, all right. So,
I'm going to mute my mic so you don't get all the background noise.
yeah, that's what I'm doing with mine when I'm on there. Hi, Julie. How are you doing? So,
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's really fun to see everybody and actually have the technology work. I'm sort of the kiss of death if there's technology involved. So, all right. Okay. So I am putting everybody's names down here as you guys join because I'm going to have a couple of door prizes today. And we will send them out to people who are not local. But if you're close enough to drive, Valerie, you're in that group. You get to come pick it up if you win. So
That'll cost me.
oh no, not really. So so there's two different bundles over there. Could you bring me one of each because I need the price points. I don't know what they are. They're not on these. So I just want to know what the prices are so I can tell people. Okay, that one and that one. Okay. All right.
Hello. Oh, good morning. Good
Well,
morning.
hello there. How are you, Joyce?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Okay. So, good job. All right.
And where did those coupons for the quilt donations end up?
I think they're sitting on my desk.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And they need a change done to them because there's no expiration date on them. Yeah, that would be great, but you obviously,
Yesterday.
we didn't have time. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. It's okay. So what we're talking about, ladies, is for those of you who hopefully have seen the emails, we have a group taking quilts to North Carolina. So, I mean, we've all heard about what happened with Helene. There's a lot of people who have still not gotten housing, living in tents, living in tiny houses that the Amish have built. But they've lost, I mean, so many people have just lost everything. So we're taking quilt donations. And right now
We just got probably 20
more.
more 4 ladies just came in who are shopping. I invite them to come and participate in this if they choose to, but they brought a whole.
So we just got 20 more quilts.
Yep.
Yesterday, a woman brought in 13.
Yeah.
So right now we are probably up to close to 60 quilts. So if you have a quilt that you've made, we're intending it for a charity thing, that this is wonderful. And I think they're going to, I hope they're going to take it and have a truck available because they're going to need it. So, what I understood is that they were going to try to collect these all up around the 20th. So we're kind of running down to the end of the wire. But if you're going to be in Bloomington, if you want to drop a quilt off for this, we will be happy to get it to the people. And what I have a feeling may end up happening here is this won't be the only time they do it. I have a feeling they may do one more run before Christmas. So I'll find out for sure. Dallas Reed from the Indianapolis Quilters Guild is the one who's been organizing this. I have been friends with Dallas since the 90s. And so he contacted me and asked me if I'd be a collection point. And of course, we are happy to do that. So we're going to end up putting a couple more quilts in there before it's all over with. So we just have to figure out what's what. So that's just one of the things we're doing here at the moment. I don't have anything that is ever going on, as all of you know. So a little bit going on. So, well, that looks like Pat Miller. Hello. Hello, Miss Pat. How are you? All right. Why don't we do it for a year from now? I'm really fine with that. So, but I do want an expiration date on it. So, right, Joyce, I am writing your name in here for our drawing, and I'm going to put Pat Miller in here. I'm writing all your names here. So, okay. Let's see who else. Has anybody else joined that I haven't seen? So it looks like everybody's getting on without too much problems. I'm so grateful that you guys are much more competent than I am. Oh, Janice. Is that Janice Cook that's on here? Who's on here? Let me see.
Yes, it's me.
Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. All right. Okay. Adding another person to the drawing. Okay, so I should probably show you guys what the drawing is. So we got in for this event some really cool, let's see, they are Schmetz needle packets. And so what's going on here is that they are coming with the cool little luggage tag. And then in our piecing and quilting bundle, we have a package of universal needles. We have a packet of jean needles in assorted sizes. We have top stitching needles. We've got quilting needles. And then we have microtex needles. And so this little packet with this 5 sets of needles and the luggage tag is retailing for $28.42. But I am going to give you guys a coupon code if you see anything that you want to on these Schmetz products. And Rhonda's going to talk about a bunch of the Schmetz products. And so if you see any of these Schmetz products that you would like to purchase, because you are participating in our little adventure here today in the Zoom world, I am going to give you 20% off of any of those products. But you will have to use the coupon code for that. And the coupon code is going to be really hard. It's going to be Schmetz. So I have not set up the coupon code yet, so don't try to do it yet. But when I get off of this Zoom meeting, I will set up a coupon and you will have basically a month to be able to use it. And again, that coupon code will be Schmetz and it'll be 20% off on our Schmetz products. That includes your needles, and that's going to include, you know, even individual packages of them. But I will tell you, this little packet is pretty cool. So you will get your Schmetz needle luggage tag along with those needles if you buy it in that package. Now, the really cool part about that is that I only give those away as either prizes at Facebook Live or in these packets. You cannot get one of those from me any other way. So it is a good idea to buy a little packet. So these bundles will be online and available. And as I said, we will have a coupon code, Schmetz, that you will be able to get 20% off. The other little packet we've got today is the embroidery bundle. Now I'm going to give one of each of these away today. So for those of you who are hanging out and watching, I'm going to do that. I'll get you, I will contact you and let you know who won. But on the embroidery packet, we've got this assorted embroidery needles. We have our non-stick, super non-stick needles. And Rhonda, please make sure that you tell people very much about these because they are cool as all get out. I have, those have been really cool and very much a nice addition to the Schmetz needle lineup. Then we've got the gold embroidery needles as part of the embroidery bundle. And those are very cool too. I have used those. I have been really pleased with them. And of course, the luggage tag. So the 2 different bundles that we've been talking about here today that are going to be, one of each of these are going to be a door prize. One is your general piecing and quilting bundle, and the other is an embroidery bundle. And I will have both of those as something that we are going to give one of each of these away today. And then what we will do is we will go ahead and if you are participating today and you want to use that coupon code, you have a month to get any of your Schmetz needles products. And right now is a great time to, you know, add to your stash because we're all sewing like mad people for the holidays. So you're going to go through more needles. So this is a good deal. So looks like Rhonda is back and we are supposed to let her actually talk today. So, let me see. Am I supposed to do anything? I think you are all okay, Rhonda. I don't think I need to do anything except for shut up.
Okay, Margaret, I'll go ahead and get started. And I'm delighted to be here. My name is Rhonda Pierce. I love to sew. I love to quilt. And today I'm in my office here in the Chicago area. And yeah, it's kind of dreary here. And I'm starting to have to wear warmer clothes too. Anyway, thank you, Margaret, for inviting me here today. So today we're talking about the hardest working 2-inch piece of steel in your sewing machine, the Schmetz needle. And I do have a goal here today. Actually, I've got a threefold goal. Hopefully, I'll elevate your respect for the hardest working 2-inch piece of steel in your sewing machine, the Schmetz needle. I'm hoping to remove any mystery you might have about the needle, like, well, what do all those little numbers mean on the Schmetz pack? And also increase confidence in your needle selection. Today's presentation will be about 45 minutes, and there's time for Q&A also. If you have questions and you're online, feel free to use the chat. I'll try to monitor that as I talk. And if I don't get to your question, I'll try to answer it right there at the end. So let's get started. I like to start with some very basic things first. I like to start with the needle anatomy because I believe if you're aware of the parts of the needle and their function, it helps you make an informed decision as to what needle type and size to use. So now my needle's on a little wooden base, but I think even virtually you can see the very top of the needle. This has a beveled edge, and this is referred to as the butt of the needle. And you might think, so what? What does a beveled edge mean to me? Well, stop and think about it. When you go to insert a new needle in your machine, you don't have a lot of wiggle room. So the top of the needle's beveled for easier insertion into your needle holder. Our home sewing machine require a flat shank needle. A flat shank needle, again, for perfect positioning into your needle holder. We have a little transitional area referred to as the shoulder of the needle, and I hope you've noticed that your Schmetz needles have either 1 or 2 bands of color, and I'll talk about that Schmetz color chart behind me shortly. We have the length of the needle, which is referred to as the blade of the needle, and the blade size actually determines the size of the needle. Schmetz, being a German company, they measure this area here of the needle using the metric system. Using the metric system, they'll get a measurement like 0.70, 0.80, etc. They take that physical measurement times 100 to come up with the sizes that we're familiar with, sizes 70, 80, 90, etc. So now that you know that the needle size is determined by the size of the blade, it's easier to remember that a size 90 needle is larger than a size 70 needle. So I hope I solved one of the mysteries you might have about your needle. On the front of your blade, how many of you have noticed the groove? You can actually see and feel the groove on your little 2-inch piece of steel, but what's the purpose of the groove? The groove is going to cradle your thread so it moves evenly and smoothly down the length of the needle to the eye. When you're sewing, your thread should not be flip-flopping back and forth. It should move evenly and smoothly to the eye so you get a nice clean stitch. We have the point and the tip, and these change according to different needle types. And on the back side of your needle, how many of you have noticed this indentation above the eye? This is referred to as the scarf of the needle. And the scarf has a very important function. When your needle passes through the fabric and the throat plate, the bobbin hook has to come up and catch that top thread in order to create the stitch. So the bobbin hook needs passing room in order to create the stitch. So those are your basic parts to the needle. Now let me bring up my screen here because I have a nice image so that you can see the butt, the shoulder, the shank, the blade, the groove, the point, the tip. And there's one part I haven't mentioned and that's the eye. And I consider the eye to be one of the most important features to your Schmetz needle. Your everyday needle, the universal needle, the eye is 40% the width of the blade. But look at the eye of the embroidery needle, and you can see that the eye is wider. And when you look at the eye of the top stitch in the metallic, oh my, you can see that the eye is elongated. So when you're sewing, what does a larger eye mean to you? A larger eye means there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So if you're sewing and your threads are breaking and shredding, what are you going to do? Well, you need to change your needle. And if you've just started your project, maybe you need to move up a needle size or change to a different needle type that has a larger eye. So I hope I've solved a little situation we sometimes encounter, threads that break and shred. What are you going to do? Change your needle. All right, so let's scoot along and let's look at the Schmetz color chart. I want to make sure you're comfortable reading the chart. And the 2 bands of color on our Schmetz needles were instituted in 2014. So you can kind of date some of your needles. All right, so on the left-hand side of our needle, the column is labeled needle type. And many of the Schmetz needle types are assigned a color. On the right-hand side of our chart, the column is labeled needle size. And each needle size is assigned a color. Now look at the needle between the 2 columns. The top color band identifies your needle type. So on this sample here, it's yellow. So we look off to the left under needle type and we find yellow is a stretch needle. Back to our needle. The lower color band identifies your needle size. So in this sample here, the color is that rosy pink. So we look off to the right under needle size, and we find that rosy pink is a size 7511. So this sample here is a stretch size 7511 needle. But let me walk you through a couple other examples. My favorite go-to needle for all kinds of sewing, piecing, quilting, etc. is a microtex needle, especially a size 80-12. So what would the 2 color bands be? So for microtex, we look off to the left under needle type and we find microtex is purple. And for size 80-12, we look off to the right and we find 80-12 is orange. So microtex size 80-12 will have a top color band of purple and a lower color band of orange. One more example would be, what if your needle has 2 bands of orange? 2 bands of orange. What would the needle type and size be? Well, we look off to the left under needle type and we find orange is a jersey needle. And we look off to the right and orange is still a size 80-12. So 2 bands of orange is a jersey size 80-12 needle. Now, there's one more thing I need to point out about the Schmetz color chart, and that has to do under needle type. And the very first needle listed is a universal needle, and there's no color. In fact, the box is X'd out. So what does that mean? Universal needles have only 1 band of color, and that's to identify your needle size. So if you have a universal size 80-12 needle, well, you have just a single band of orange. If you have a single band of blue, you have universal size 90-14. So I hope this chart helps you identify your needles, especially after you've taken them out of your needle package. All right, let's scoot along and let's look at that little plastic chip that your needles come in. All right, so currently at the bottom of your Schmetz needle pack, you find the needle size. Or on this sample here, assorted sizes 70-10, 80-12, and 90-14. And I think most everyone recognizes needle sizes. But how many of you have looked at that number above the needle size and wondered, What the heck does 13705H mean? Well, don't be intimidated by that number. We refer to it as the needle system. What is that? 130/705 means that your needle has a flat shank. The H translates from a German word that means scarf. So needle system 130/705H is a flat shank needle with a scarf that we can use in 98% of all of our home sewing machines. So needle system 130/705H, think of it as a model number. In the industry, we refer to it as a needle system. Now, why is that number so important to know? Well, how many of you have sergers or long arms? And you might use a different needle system. Sergers can sometimes use a different needle system, such as ELX 705. Sometimes our sergers can use a regular home sewing machine needle too, 130/705H. So be aware, ELX 705 is used by serger machines. Another needle system that you might find is for long arm machines. Some of the Bernina machines can use a regular home sewing machine needle, but some of the larger machines might use a different needle system like 206X13 or a 134R or 135X5, etc. So I just want you to be informed about the needle system. 130/705H is a flat shank needle with a scarf that we use in over 98% of our home sewing machines. All right, back to our little needle pack. Above the needle system, we find the needle type spelled out. So these are universal needles. Above that, you've got the Schmetz name. And above that, through the clear packaging, you can see the color bands. So those color bands should agree with the sizes on your little needle pack. So on this sample here, the two needles on the left-hand side have that single band of green for size 70-10. The next two needles to the right have that single band of orange for size 80-12. And the needle on the far right has that single band of blue for size 90-14. So all your information should agree. But let's look at one other pack of needles. Okay, so currently, at the bottom of your Schmetz needle pack, you find the needle size. So these needles here are size 90-14. Above that is the needle system 130/705H. So we know that this is a flat shank needle that we can use in our home sewing machine. But look at that needle system line just a little bit closer, because on this sample, there's an additional letter, a -E, E for embroidery. On some of your other needle packs, you might find a -J for jeans or Q for quilting or M for microtex, etc. So lots of information. Above the needle system, you find the needle type spelled out. So these are embroidery needles. Above that, even today, sometimes you'll still see the German word for needle. You've got the Schmetz name above that, and above that, through the clear packaging, you can see the color bands. So from our Schmetz color chart, when we look off to the left under needle type, we find red for embroidery. And the lower color band of blue is for size 90-14. So lots of information between your needle and your needle pack, and it should all agree. So those are your basic parts to the needle. Are there any questions about the parts of the needle, the color chart, or the information on your little Schmetz needle pack? And I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, okay, Margaret, you've got a question?
Yeah, if you were wondering which needle system you were looking at, say you came across a package of needles and you come up with some interesting needle system that you're not familiar with. is there a place you can look that information up at?
Well, there's
Because
lots.
I mean, typically Google's not very helpful for this.
Well, boy, that's a good question. You can always go to schmetzneedles.com and you under the search, you could search for that specific needle system, and that would probably give you a clue. But it may
I
not
just
tell the
don't
full
find much
story.
information about that because a lot of industrial sewing machines out there use various system types and so forth. And
Yes.
unless you have the manual for the actual machine, you just don't really know.
Right. So here in our office, we have volumes, thick volumes of books that identify industrial commercial machines and their needle system. That said,
Interesting.
if you don't have your owner's manual to your commercial or industrial machine, I would suggest that you go to Google and put that make, the manufacturer and the model number, and then ask what needle system to use.
That's
And I
really okay. All right.
yeah,
Okay.
but I'll tell
right.
you, right up front, that information you really have to dig through, even in the owner's manual sometimes, which I find this really hard to believe that you have to dig for that information.
It should be
Sometimes,
like on the second page.
absolutely, because you can't sew without that needle.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes you'll
very
find
odd.
it on the page where it talks about changing the needle. Sometimes it's at the rear of the owner's manual where it has troubleshooting. So don't give up. And if you have a question, you can always go to schmetzneedles.com and send us an email and we can help you out. So good question.
I will also mention that a lot of times this happens when you have an older serger also, because they didn't, for the longest time, they didn't use regular home sewing machine needles. They had basically industrial needles that they use. So if you've got an older serger that it may not use a home sewing machine needle, just for reference for
Right.
everybody.
So there were two common, older but common needle systems for sergers, and that's the BLX1 and the DCX1. And we still have those in stock, but you know, with newer sergers, some of them use a regular home sewing machine needle, and yes, ELX 705. So good question. Yeah. Okay, well, let's scoot along and let's talk about specific needles. And what do you think the most popular needle type is? And I'm guessing that you know, or you would guess that the universal needle is the most popular needle type. Why? Well, the universal needle has a slightly rounded point. It works well on your woven fabrics. It works well on your knit fabrics. The universal needle is also available in the widest range of sizes, from the smallest size 60 all the way up to a size 120. Plus, universal is available in twin and triple needles too. So lots of variety for your universal needle. So when I look at our sales reports, and also when I do some informal surveys, that universal size 80-12 is the most popular needle type and size, followed by universal size 90-14. So no matter what kind of sewing, piecing, quilting, crafting you like to do, I always suggest you have universal 80-12 and 90-14 in your stash, at least for backup. But today I want to talk about a few specific needles. So I'm guessing you've got that piecing and quilting bundle. So I want to talk about 5 popular needle types for piecing and for quilting. So if you're taking notes here today, write these down. Well, the universal, the workhorse of all needle types. And yes, lots of famous quilters like to use the universal for both piecing and for quilting. But there's 4 other needle types I want to mention here today. And we've got the jeans needle, also known as a denim needle. And does that surprise you for piecing and for quilting? Well, how many of you like to make denim quilts? Or maybe flannel quilts or those heavy duty raggy quilts. And the jeans needle is up to the task. So what's so special about the jeans needle? The jeans needle has a reinforced blade. A reinforced blade, so when the needle passes through your heavier or denser fabrics, there's less needle deflection, less movement of the needle when the stitch is created. So the jeans needle, a wonderful needle to use when you're making denim quilts, flannel quilts, and those heavy duty raggy quilts. And you know what, I'll also just mention before I forget, I know making those coiled bowls are really popular, so that jeans needle is up to the task. All right, another needle popular for piecing and for quilting is the top stitch needle. This needle has a slightly rounded point, like the universal needle, but if you remember that diagram about the eye of the needle, the top stitch needle has an elongated eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So the top stitch needle for piecing and for quilting. Another needle, just as the name suggests, is the quilting needle. But guess what? You can use this for piecing too. So this needle, the quilting needle, was specifically engineered for piecing and for quilting. It has a special tapered point, specifically designed for piecing and for quilting. It comes in 2 sizes. So you'll probably use the smaller size 7511 for the piecing of your project and the larger size 9014 for the quilting of your project, the quilting needle. And last but not least, and I'm not presenting these needles in any specific order, but we have the microtex needle, generically known as a sharp needle. So what's so special about the microtex? The microtex has a very slim acute point. Very slim acute point. So with the microtex needle, you're going to get the most precise stitches. And because the microtex has that very slim acute point, guess what? It's going to dull quicker than any other needle type. So you will need to replace your microtex more frequently than any other needle type. The other thing I want to mention about microtex is how many of you like to sew, piece, or quilt with batik fabrics? I love batik fabrics. And even if you pre-wash your batik fabrics, oftentimes they'll still be tightly woven and can still have some dye residue. And that microtex needle can just stitch beautifully through your batik fabrics. So 5 needle types popular for piecing and quilting, and guess what? Margaret's got them already bundled up for you, but let me just walk you through the 5 needle types again. The universal needle, the workhorse of all needle types. We've got the jeans needle, also known as a denim needle. This needle has a reinforced blade, so when you're stitching through heavier fabrics or denim fabrics, maybe quilts, flannel quilts, or those heavy-duty raggy quilts, the jeans needle is up to the task. There's the top stitch needle with that elongated eye. The quilting needle, specifically designed for piecing and for quilting. It has that special tapered point. You'll probably use the smaller size 7511 for the piecing of your project and the larger size 9014 for the quilting of your project. And last but not least is the microtex needle, generically known as a sharp needle. The microtex has a very slim acute point. Use this needle when you're looking for precise stitches. Use this microtext also on your batik fabrics. And remember, because the microtext has that very slim acute point, it's going to dull quicker than any other needle type. So Margaret has these needles already bundled up for you. They come with the ever popular Schmetz ABC Pocket Guide, which is the foundation to today's class. And yes, it comes with that handy luggage tag, laminated luggage tag with the Schmetz color chart that you can travel with. You can put it on your machine or you can hang it in your sewing room for easy reference. So as Margaret mentioned, she's got a special discount of 20% on this bundle. All right, so make sure you get in touch with Margaret. All right, so let's scoot along. There are a few other needles I want to talk about today. How many of you like to sew with knits? I love to sew with knits. And you know what? When I first learned to sew, it was with double polyester. How many of you remember double polyester? Well, knits have come a long way since then, and knits are beautiful, beautiful, and there's so many knits that are available. And part of the success of sewing with knits is using the appropriate needle. So there are 2 needles you must have in your stash when you're sewing with knits. And the first is the jersey needle. The generic name for a jersey needle is a ballpoint needle. The jersey needle has a medium ballpoint. The other needle you need in your stash when sewing with knits is a stretch needle. And guess what? The stretch needle also has a medium ballpoint. But when you compare the difference between the stretch and the jersey, the stretch needle has a smaller eye and a deeper scarf. So now your stretch needle's going to stitch just a little bit differently than your jersey needle. The stretch needle's going to interact with your machine, your fabric, your thread just a little bit differently. So if you're sewing with knits, how do you know? Do you use a jersey or a stretch needle? Well, there's a rule of thumb that's going to work about 80% of the time. If your knit fabric is just a regular knit fabric, use the jersey needle. But if your knit fabric has lycra, spandex, or elastic, use the stretch needle. And that's certainly the trend. Knit fabrics with lycra of 2, 3, 6% or more of lycra. So you want to use that stretch needle. The other thing I want to mention about the stretch needle is how many of you like to sew, piece, or quilt with minky or cuddle fabric? I like to think I'm the cuddle queen. I love sewing cuddle and minky. And if you've been afraid to use that fabric, it's ever so soft and plush. It's got that high piles. So when you sew with it, it has a tendency to move. So 2 tips on sewing on minky and cuddle fabric. First, you want to use the stretch 9014 needle. And yes, that makes a huge difference. Even Shannon Fabrics that manufactures cuddle and minky suggests Schmetz stretch 9014. The other thing you want to do when you're sewing with minky or cuddle is you want to be very aggressive in your pinning. So I always pin parallel to my stitch line and also perpendicular to my stitch line. And yes, I do remove the pin before I stitch over that pin. So use the stretch 9014 on your cuddle and minky fabrics. So these needles you can find as single cards right there. With Margaret, you've got the jersey and the stretch needle. So they come in a variety of sizes. And when you're sewing with knits, yes, the appropriate needle makes a huge difference. All right, so now Margaret also asked me to talk about the super nonstick needle. This needle came out right before the pandemic. So if you don't know about it, Well, I'm glad you're here today and I can tell you about it. Super nonstick, super universal. The first thing you're going to notice about this needle is the color. It's kind of a gunmetal color or charcoal gray. So what is that? It's an anti-adhesive coating. Anti-adhesive coating. I can't use that T word that we find in our pots and pans in our kitchens, but that's what it is, an anti-adhesive coating. This needle also has two other special characteristics. It has a reinforced blade. A reinforced blade. So when you're stitching, there's less needle deflection, less movement of the needle, so you get a cleaner stitch. The super nonstick super universal has an enlarged eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So great characteristics to this needle. When are you going to use it? Well, how many of you like to do machine embroidery or machine applique? This is a great needle choice because when you're doing those techniques, oftentimes you're working with a stabilizer that has an adhesive. And what happens to that adhesive? Yeah, it gets warm and then it gets sticky and it has a tendency to gum up your needle. So the super nonstick, super universal, you can get more stitching time before your needle gums up. Other uses for the super nonstick, super universal is how many of you like to sew on oilcloth or splash fabric? This is a great needle to use. And what about vinyl? What happens when you sew on vinyl? The vinyl gets warm. Then the vinyl has a tendency to hug your needle and you can't see where you're sewing. So the super nonstick, super universal is a great needle choice when you're working with vinyl. And one other application for the super nonstick, super universal is Velcro, also known as hoop and loop tape, which I always think is an odd fabrication. It's sticky on one side, crispy on another, and kind of fuzzy in between. And that super nonstick, super universal can just stitch through your Velcro easily. So the super nonstick, super universal comes in 4 sizes, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Use this for machine embroidery, machine applique, sewing on vinyl, splash fabric, oilcloth, and your Velcro. Lots of uses. And yes, Margaret has these single packs of needles for you. So that leaves one other category of needles that I want to just briefly mention here today, and that's machine embroidery needles. So I've got 3 needles to bring to your attention. One is our classic embroidery needle. This is a chrome needle. And if you remember at the beginning of today's presentation, I talked about the eye of the needle. And the embroidery needle has a wide eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. And this is a chrome needle. The other needle that's great for embroidery is the gold embroidery needle. Now this needle, you can see that it is actually gold. And what is that? It's a titanium coating. Titanium gives the needle extra strength. There's less resistance to the needle passing through the fabric and less resistance to the thread passing through that large eye. So you've got the Schmetz gold embroidery needle. And both the chrome and the gold come in 2 sizes, the smaller size 7511 and the larger size 9014. And one other needle that I already mentioned that's fantastic for machine embroidery, and that's the super nonstick, super universal. Again, it has that anti-adhesive coating, it has that reinforced blade, and an extra large eye. So this is a great needle to use for your machine embroidery and your machine applique. And guess what? Margaret has these already bundled up for you. You know what? It's a great gift for yourself. It's a great gift for your sewing buddies, your machine embroidery buddies. And as Margaret mentioned earlier, there's a 20% discount on your Schmetz needles today. So this bundle comes with the ever popular ABC Pocket Guide and the popular luggage tag with the Schmetz color chart. So we have just covered a lot of information. Is your head swimming? Okay. Are there any questions about specific needle types before I scoot along? And I don't see any questions in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot along because I have a mystery question. Since the pandemic, I've given over 430 virtual presentations, and I'm starting to do in-person presentations now too. And you know what? There's always one question that's popular. And I'm going to guess it's a question that you've asked yourself too. And what's that question? How long does a needle last? Well, here's the easy answer. They don't last forever. And when you're sewing, your needles should never, ever look like these. These are really nasty looking needles. That needle on the left-hand side looks like it has twin mountain peaks. The needle on the far right looks like a cutting blade. So what are these nasty needles going to do to your beautiful fabrics? Yep, they're just going to eat up your fabric. So what are you going to do? Change out your needle. Changing the needle, it's a simple repair that you can do at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. That's generally when I do my sewing. This is one of my favorite slides in today's presentation. This is the same needle in every frame. But with increased magnification, you can see, oh, that needle really isn't so great. When you look at it on the left-hand side with your naked eye, it looks sharp, right? But with increased magnification, as we move to the right, you can see, oh, that needle is dull. Oh, that needle really is dull. And look at that super burr, that super lip right there on the point. Look at all those burrs and striations. So what's this nasty needle going to do to your beautiful fabrics? Yep, it's just going to eat up your fabric. So what are you going to do? Change out your needle. So, yep, changing out your needle. Why? Because needles do get dull with use. So how long does a needle last? I'm going to say, I don't know. It could be 3 seconds if you hit a pin right away. And if you hit a pin, I know your first thought is, oh my goodness, I just bent the needle. And maybe you did. But if you just hit a pin, what I guarantee you did is you just compromised the point and the tip. So what are you going to do? Change out the needle. Maybe you can get 20 hours of sewing time. Maybe you don't push or pull your fabric underneath the foot. So 3 seconds, 20 hours, that's quite the time range. So I know people like to average it out to 6 to 8 hours of sewing time. But how many of you time yourself? It's impossible to time yourself. So rather than put a time on your needle, what I want you to do is reframe that question from how long does a needle last to what are the clues to changing your needle while you're sewing? What are the clues to changing out the needle while you're sewing? So we kind of touched upon one clue already, and that's when your thread is breaking and shredding. And what you may not know is if you're not changing your needle frequently enough, the thread will actually create a groove in the eye of the needle. And what's that going to do? Break and shred your thread. So what are you going to do? Change out your needle. What's another clue? What's happening to your fabrics while you're sewing? Are your fabrics puckering? Is the needle snagging your fabric? Or in a really bad case, The needle hits your fabric and tucks the fabric into your throat plate. Hello. What are you going to do? Change out your needle. Margaret, I'm guessing you've seen too many of these clues. What's another clue? Yeah, when you're sewing.
That last one, I had a machine just completely eat a piece of fabric on me the other day. And it was like, okay, there's no saving the fabric. It just had to be thrown away and, start over again. So if we can avoid that, that's always best.
Yes, yes. All right, avoid that. So change the needle. What's another clue? What's happening to your stitches? Are your stitches skipping? Are your seams uneven? Or maybe you're sitting at your machine and you're saying, well, Rhonda, I'm sewing in a straight line. How come my stitches look kind of wiggly squiggly? Well, guess what? Your needle is dull. So what are you going to do? Change out your needle. And there's one other clue. Hopefully, when you're sewing, you're in that bubble, right? Everything is grand in my sewing world, and your machine is humming along. And then you start to hear that little click, click, clicking sound. And what is it? Oh, it's your needle saying, hey, I've been working hard here. Change me. If you ignore the clicking sound, it graduates to a pop, pop, popping sound. Now your needle is yelling at you, change me, change me. And if you ignore the clicking and the popping, what's happening now? Clunk, clunk, clunk. And what's your first inclination? Oh, something's wrong with my machine. Maybe, but even if you take your machine into the tech, what's the first thing the tech's going to ask you? Hey, when's the last time you changed your needle? So let me just spare you that cost. Change the needle. So today I'm not here just to sell you more needles, but I really want you to have a wonderful sewing experience. And yes, that includes changing out the needle. Now, let's just stop and think about something. I'm guessing you spent a pretty nice chunk of change on your machine, right? Or your machines. How many of you have more than one machine? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have a fabric stash? You've collected fabrics during all those shop hops and including the fabrics in your secret fabric stashes. And what about all the money you've spent on those beautiful threads? Yep, all those beautiful threads, the specialty threads, the different colors, etc. And you've probably spent money on books, patterns, lectures, retreats, workshops, patterns, etc. Okay. And let's not forget about your sewing time. Your sewing time is an investment too. You don't make a quilt in just an hour or two. No, no, no. There's thought and workmanship that go into those quilts and all those garments and fun things that we like to stitch. So let's take that entire investment cycle from your machine to the fabric, the thread, your guides, your time, right down to the hardest working 2-inch piece of steel in your sewing machine, which is also the least expensive part to your machine, and just change out your needle. Changing out the needle, it's the least expensive way to elevate your stitches. So, and yes, they do get dull with use. Okay, so I hope that helps. Those clues are helpful to you on changing out the needle. Now, the other thing I want to mention about changing out the needle is oftentimes we like to juggle projects, right? Maybe you're working on a quilt and now you're going to make a little t-shirt for a kiddo. And so now you're going to change out your needle. You finish that project and you come back to that original quilt project and you put that original needle in, or before you do, you think, I didn't really use that needle very much. Is that slightly used needle still sewing worthy? Well, here's two little things that you can do to test that needle. You can take your slightly used needle and run it over your fingernail. And if it leaves a scratch, you know you've got a burr and you need to toss that needle. Or if you've got a pair of old hose, and I'm never wearing hose again after this pandemic, so I've got old hose, or maybe you've got a swatch of jersey fabric, run your slightly used needle over your fabric, and if it snags, guess what? You've got a burr and you need to toss that needle. So you can put that needle back into your machine, or if you've got an array of slightly used needles, how do you keep track of them? Well, we've got the Grab It My Pad Needle Organizer. Many of you carry Grab It products in your sewing rooms, like the Bobbin Saver Square and the Bobbin Saver Square Jumbo. And this is the Grab It My Pad Needle Organizer. So this is the hang card. You're going to see it hanging in Margaret's store. But what is it? Let me give you a quick walkthrough. It's a 7.5-inch square piece of felt, and it's extra thick piece of felt. And during COVID, I updated this My Pad. So we've got all the different needle types using the Schmetz color chart. So green for quilting, purple for microtext, red for embroidery, etc. And then within each needle type category, we've got the needle sizes. So embroidery comes in size 7511 and 9014, and there's twin embroidery needles too. So now for your slightly used needles, you just slide it into the appropriate needle type and size. The Grab It My Pad needle organizer also comes with a little flower head pin. Because how many of you have inherited grandma or mom's sewing stash, and maybe there's some Schmetz needles in there that don't have the color coding? If those needles were taken care of, they weren't exposed to moisture or dust, you can still use them, but they're not going to have the color coding. So once you take that needle out of the package and you put it in the machine, use this little flower head pin. Just slide it into the appropriate needle type and size cell. So now you don't have to rely on your memory. So I do have a better picture here of the Grab It My Pad. And let me just share that. And there you go. So that's what it looks like. And that little flower head pin will be either white or yellow. Doesn't matter. So Margaret has these for you. She has those in stock. So get your hands on those. I use these at home. Mine has quite a few slightly used needles. And I just lean it against my light source right next to my sewing machine. So nice little gift item. All right, so let's scoot along because is your head exploding with all the information I've given you here today? I know Margaret's a wealth of information, but I want to bring to your attention some free resources. Where are you going to buy your Schmetz needles? You're going to go right there to Margaret. She's got those bundles, that piecing and quilting bundle and the machine embroidery bundle. But today, I also want to bring to your attention some free information that's on our consumer website, schmetzneedles.com. So if you're home or if you're in the classroom and when you get home later, take a look at schmetzneedles.com. Can you identify these 5 needles right there at the top of the screen? Microtext 8012, that's my favorite needle, so I've got it right there front and center on the left-hand side of the array of needles. So test yourself with those color bands. Take note of where that red star is right there at resources. You can also scroll down further on our website, and when you get that Schmetz ABC Pocket Guide, you'll come to our homepage to identify the needles on the on the cover of your ABC Pocket Guide. So take a look at these needles, especially the eyes and the points and the tips, and sometimes the differences between the needle types can be ever so slight. but can be ever so powerful. So take a look at identifying these needle types. On the right, you see that red star again, and it says click here for the free Schmetz web-based app. So I will walk you through the Schmetz ABC Pocket Guide, the print version that Margaret has for you, but you can also download this into your phone. Right there where that red star is, it says Schmetz free web app. Click that, and this is what's going to upload into your phone, your computer, or your laptop. The ABC Pocket Guide, the images that I've shown you here today, all the information and more is right there in the ABC Pocket Guide. Plus, in the app, there's over 100 fabrics that are listed alphabetically with recommendations for needle type and size. So if you've been curious, oh, what needle do I use for cork or bamboo? Guess what? They're right there in the Schmetz Needle app. So you can reference that quite easily. Of course, the Schmetz color chart is there, and you can also download that as a PDF and hang it in your sewing room. And we also have needle manufacturers listed with links to their sites with their recommendations for needle type and sizes for their specific threads. So lots of free information that you can have right there at the tip of your hands. The app is web-based, so it doesn't matter if you've got Android, iPhone, or Google. It just downloads quite easily. I will be right up front with you that years ago we had the Schmetz app through Google Play, but we no longer support that. So to get the app, you're going to go to schmetzneedles.com and download it at no charge, and we're not collecting your information. So just to wrap up, my name is Rhonda Pierce. I love to sew. I love to quilt. I'm in the Chicago area, and I represent Schmetz Home Sewing Machine Needles in North America. I do have a personal website, sewmorestitches.com. I'm not selling anything, but until this year, I was blogging regularly, but I've been traveling so much, I haven't really updated the blog too much. But you can go in and click 2020 sewing, 2021, 2022 sewing, and see that my quilt, my garments, and other kinds of sewing that I've enjoyed over the last few years. So if you see me in Margaret's store or at a sewing show or a quilting show, you know what? I want you to come up and say, hey, Rhonda, I took your class with Margaret. My favorite Schmetz needle type and size is, and just let me know. Okay, so Margaret, we've covered a lot of information here.
You have, Rhonda, you have. Julie had a question, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but she was told that her particular machine, one of them that she owns, is a Janome, and that she was only supposed to use the Janome needles because they were supposedly shorter. I've never heard of that before, so I didn't have an answer for her. We only deal in Bernina sewing machines, so that's a different thing. I don't know, maybe you don't know.
I do know because it's a frequently asked question. As long as the needle system 130-705H, as long as that what your Janome machine states to use, you're fine. You know, Schmetz can't shorten or lengthen the needles. But I will tell you that with any kind of machine, whether it's Janome, Viking, Pfaff, Juki, Bernina, etc., if you're trying to use the needle threader generally works only with needles size 70 and larger. So those you can take, I know with Janome machines, you can take your Janome machine to your dealer and they can adjust that needle threader so it can thread the smaller needle sizes, but generally it's easier just to thread those smaller needle sizes manually. So again, for Janome, Schmetz certainly is compatible. I've been to many, many different Janome institutes over the years. I know lots of Janome dealers, and yes, Schmetz works in Janome machines. The other thing I will say about Janome is that every once in a while, they will have a certain model, a certain machine model that does require a different needle system. So you will need to be aware of that. But overall, I would say that over 95% of the Janome machines can and do use Schmetz needles. So Julie, thank you for asking that question.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
My question for you is you keep on mentioning the packaging. Are we getting ready for an update?
Okay, you are very perceptive, Margaret. All right, so here I have the Schmetz ABC Pocket Guide that Margaret has. I'm going to answer this a roundabout way. So you want to get your hands on this because it's so cute and helpful. It's not promo information, it's actually educational material. And you can see here on the cover, you can test yourself, can you identify these needles? So lots of information. We've got an index here. So you can find your needles. We've got a 2-page spread with the different points of the needle and identifying the appropriate needle type. We've got this wonderful diagram about the eyes of the needle, so you don't have to memorize that. And of course, we've got the Schmetz color chart. And to me, the most important page in this ABC Pocket Guide is page 11, clues to change the needle, with a nasty looking needle right there. And then we photograph all the different types of Schmetz needles. We tell you what sizes, the characteristics, etc. So get your hands on this. And at the back, there's over 75 fabrics that are alphabetically listed with needle recommendations, needle type and size recommendations. So Margaret is referencing the needle chip. Yes, is there a change coming? Yes, we're all familiar with the regular Schmetz needle pack. This is what it looks like, the little plastic chip. And we're starting to see some changes already. So you're going to see a new plastic chip. And what they've done is they've placed the size of the needle in a vertical position over the middle needle. And guess what?
Oh my,
They
it's
didn't
very
talk.
little.
They didn't talk to me first.
It's really little.
It's little and people can't read it. So I've been told, that they agree with me and that they're
Okay.
going to change it. But guess what? Change is going to happen in 2 to 3 years. So you'll probably see some changes in your package, but be aware, look for the color bands. That will help you identify the needle size. So I'm glad you asked.
They
that.
think we're all getting younger, and I would love to think that's true, but I don't think it is.
Well, I have a few more things up my sleeve that I am communicating with them. But you know what? Change takes time, and it's a whole manufacturing design and manufacturing process. So 2 to 3 years, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. No, so you know what, Margaret? I want to mention, because do you have the Schmetz tin in your store? Yes, this is okay. So this is a 7.5-inch square cookie tin. No, it doesn't have cookies. But guess what? Margaret's version has all kinds of Schmetz goodies in it. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a great time to pick up a gift for yourself or for someone that's just learning to sew. I think there's 8 packs of needles in there. And if I remember right, there might be a My Pad in there or a bobbin saver. I don't remember because
There's
mine
a
is
grab it.
Oh, a grab it. Okay. A grab it
Mhm.
magnetic pin cushion. Fantastic. So lots of goodies that you can use and share with your friends. So yeah. So keep this in mind. All right, Margaret, what other
I have a drawing to do.
Oh,
Hopefully
okay.
most people are still here. It looks like they are. So we're gonna do a drawing and I am shaking these guys up here and we're gonna pull a name out. Okay. So we have Carla Morris has won one of our prizes. And Carla, since you are the first one to win, you get to choose whether you would like to have the wait a minute, I'm doing the wrong thing here. I'm trying. Let's put the chat back up. There we go. There we go. No, they're not. There's one that's for embroidery and there's one for quilting. That's what I had you bring me, was one of each. Oh, you mean in here we just did the quilting and piecing ones? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I got corrected. We have both the same one. So I did pull out two of the quilting and piecing. So the majority of our customers I thought would prefer that because some of them do not embroider. So I didn't know if they would or not. So we actually, and it's actually the most expensive one. So that's cool. So the price for each one of these people, Carla, you're going to get one. And I've got you set aside here. So we will go ahead and put her name and her price set aside here. And I'm going to pick one more name out. So let's see. Okay. All right. And Debbie being one. I know Debbie had to leave, but we have her information. So we will send Debbie a collection of these also. So we have those two prizes given away. But remember, all of you guys here are going to know about our Schmetz needle coupon. So you can use either for the needles or for the tin or for whatever it is, your that wonderful felt needle packet, or I mean, place to put your
iPad.
needles. It'll work for any of these things. So your grabbits, your my pad, all of those things, it's going to work for all of those items because it's not a huge number. We'll get that all taken care of. So your Schmetz, and again, the coupon code is just going to be the word Schmetz. And yes, the capital S and then CHMETZ. So you will get 20% off of any of those products that you want. And that coupon code is going to be good for up till December, all the way till the end of the day on December 15th. Okay. So I am really grateful for all of you showing up. I think that we did good today. We had actually about 16 of us, so that wasn't too bad. I've also recorded this, so I'm going to send it out in an email to everybody. If you want our emails and you're not getting them currently, make sure that you let us know. We would like to do that. You can just email me at info@universityofsewing.com, and I will be happy to go ahead and put you on our email list that will let you know about any sales we're having, any events like this. Rhonda, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have you again. I have gotten to meet you several times now, and it's been fun every single time. She is just as much, actually, she's more fun in person. I'm just going to tell you. So if you didn't, Rhonda, you should move just a little bit so they can see your quilt with the unicorn in the back
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah, the
that-
unicorn.
check out that. Did you make that quilt?
Well, you know what? To be honest, yes, but it's a whole cloth panel.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
It looks like it's got gorgeous quilting on it.
Yeah, the quilting, my friend Amy did the quilting. I put the binding on.
Okay, all right, okay.
You
all
know
right.
what? It was
What
my-
about the embroidered projects?
Oh, let's see. Oh, yes, you know what? Yes, you know what? That's a vintage Japanese kimono in the back, and my friend Christy did the machine embroidery on that. It's exquisite. And then the fuchsia magenta coat is I found this coat.
Oh my goodness, that's gorgeous.
I found this coat laying on the floor underneath the rack at Talbot's outlet store. I bought the coat for $19. It's wool
job.
and fully lined. And again, my friend Christy did the machine embroidery on it.
Stunning.
I do machine embroidery, but she does it much faster and expertly. So of course she had to remove the lapel and open up the sleeves and the lining in order to create this.
Wow.
It's
it
a
is-
stunner.
Yeah, it really is breathtaking. Very beautiful.
I
Very,
was
very
offered
beautiful.
$1,000 for it in Las Vegas. I said
I
no.
believe that. It fits you, I hope. I hope you
It
can wear
does.
that.
It does
It's
for me,
lovely.
of course.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, does anybody else have any questions for Rhonda? We have pretty much used up our time here, so I want to get going and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but thanks for staying, everyone. We've had a really good time. Thank you, Rhonda. It was wonderful information. It's really fun to know that I actually have learned what you've been talking about so that I can communicate with our customers appropriately. So
Well, Margaret, I think I could learn a few things from you, and I hope someday I can actually get to your store and you can take me out to dinner. Yes.
you are only in Chicago. You're 4 hours away. You can come and visit me.
I will. Okay, it's a deal.
All right.
All right,
Okay,
thanks everybody. So Smith.
Everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Don't forget, we're having an event on Saturday if you haven't signed up. Take care now. Bye-bye. Let's see if I can figure out how to end everything.